Hello, I am your caster Hotohori and welcome you back to an Overwatch League 4 Week 4 preview. And I'm here again with my cast of characters. Tactical Buffalo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Hoda. How are you?
I'm very, very good. Our stats whiz Blue, how you doing, Blue?
I'm awake. Let's just say that's a good thing.
It's good to hear. And our resident Philadelphia fan, Archimus. How are you doing, Archimus?
I'm here too, yay.
Yay! As the stream might notice, I have changed your images to reflect the teams that you are supporting in the Overwatch League.
Oh my
Hashtag
god.
burn blue.
Yeah,
Gotta burn
yeah, still burning
slowly.
blue there, Dallas Fuel, but just barely. Archimus getting a big win this week with the Philadelphia Fusion, and almost a big
Philly boys.
loss at the same time.
Big loss for TAC.
And
I don't want to talk about it.
a big loss, and a big win. So what are you gonna do? So let's start with the headlines of week 3, and that entails our our Korea has fallen line. January 25th, 2018. Is it a date that will remain in history with regards to esports, where all 3 Korean teams lost in this previous week of Overwatch? 2 of them lost on the 25th to basically what people thought at the time were mid-ranking sort of American teams, and
Yeah.
then Seoul losing to NYXL the very next day. So, Tack, take me through it. What did you think when NYXL was just sort of housed by Philadelphia, being the NYXL fan?
Okay, first off, they weren't housed. It was a 3-2. It was a 3-2 battle. But honestly, I don't really think this is much of a world gaming event as some have made it out to be. As I said, Seoul lost to another Korean team, and I know NYXL probably wasn't on their A game with that Seoul game looming in the distance, and they didn't really show up to play while Philly did. And same with London Spitfire. I'm sure they underestimated Boston Uprising and also didn't show up to play. So I think overall, this isn't really much of a blip on the entirety of the gaming spectrum. But I do think it is a pivotal moment as these teams have shown that they're not the unbeatable monsters that everyone once thought they were.
Well, Artemis, you were on the winning side of this match with regards to Philadelphia and NYXL. I know that the DPS for Philadelphia is really, really good. I mean, did they
Very good.
exceed your expectations in this match, or was it one of those things that you knew that they had a shot? Like there was no way this was an upset, at least a major
Well,
one.
I honestly I thought they were gonna do well, but I didn't think they were gonna win. They really pulled it out of the bag. And I think it's a wake up call for these Korean teams that some of these teams that they thought were just pushover teams are actually a lot better than they thought they were gonna be. Like Boston and Philly. They're gonna have to take them a little more seriously next time if they actually want to win.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Blue, like you were there, like you saw some of these crazy upsets statistics wise. Breaking it down, I mean, did you think that either Philadelphia had it in them to beat these teams, or was it one of those things that you think that this was just like an earth shattering crazy upset with regards to what was going on?
I don't think in the least that it was. I feel like this was actually looming, to say the least. Boston really showed up this week, but I do want to point out that Philadelphia has never actually been a truly bad team. They have a
Mhm.
fantastic lineup. It's just that they had struggling in the beginning of the season, and obviously this league is still young. It's still at the beginning of the league. We've only seen 3 weeks of a very, very long 6 months. So, with that stated, teams are bound to fall, and it's only one match, people say.
No.
So, with that said, matches can be lost, people can be underestimated, things can be looked at differently, and adjustments have to be made. I think the Korean teams are sticking to their guns while everybody else is trying to figure them out.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think both. I think though there has been like this sort of assumption going into the league that when you were going to play New York, London, or Seoul, you were going to go into a match thinking that it was immediately going to be a stomp. And slowly but surely in the last 2 weeks, you've seen it sort of not happen that way. And you saw it on the first day, on day one, when Shanghai, of all people, took a map off the Seoul Dynasty, and everybody was sort of going crazy and seeing their nets off. And then what we saw on Thursday was probably some of the greatest sort of like matches we've seen, in the sense that people were just getting so hyped with regards to the fact that, yeah, I mean, this league is helping everyone on the Western side with regards to showing that this is a young league and anything can happen, and that you just need to tune in week to week. So yeah, I'm in agreement with that. So we'll move on here, because that was such a big story that was covered. But the thing that sort of got lost was the Battle of LA, between the Gladiators and the Valiant, that happened on day one. Sort of disappeared after what happened on Thursday on the 25th. But this was an excellent match that basically broke down to the fact that Valiant had to reverse sweep the Gladiators to win
Hmm.
this match. And Archimus is like, you were watching it with me when we were watching this match. It's like it was almost as if Valiant took them lightly, like they were prepping for something else to
Yeah.
happen, and then had to wake up and all of a sudden reverse sweep. I mean, am I wrong? Was this like, or did you think that Gladiators actually had it in them, and then they replaced Sure 4, and then everything just went to shit?
I don't know. I think Valiant might have underestimated the Gladiators. I mean, the Gladiators are a much better team than people make them out to be. I mean, they still aren't the best team, but I definitely think Valiant underestimated them and had to actually step up to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, like, Tack, what are you thinking? I mean, it's like this wasn't really like the whole day one really wasn't like, there wasn't really marquee highlights. He didn't think that anything was going to be too crazy. This match was the standout on day one, but it sort of lived up to the hype. And what did you think coming out of the match between the two teams?
I think that it was very much a Valiant being one of the stronger teams, Western teams in the Overwatch League. Just saw Gladiators as like a low to mid tier team, and so they really had to step it up there at the end to actually come out with the win here.
Yeah. And Blue, I mean, like you saw like all the matches in day one, the Battle of LA, and then Seoul and London losing maps to either one. I mean, being this was the marquee matchup of the day, I mean, like, was it as surprising it was as close as it was, you think? Or was it like, or what are you thinking? Or this was like basically in line with regards to where these two teams are?
The way that I've been looking at the Valiant have had substantial improvements that were made from the very, very beginning to where they just started stomping on people and then actually looked to wipe out the defensive onslaught of the London Spitfire back in week 2, I think that was. Um, since then, they haven't had too many challenges that actually like show their stature and what they're supposed to be. Oh no, it was week. No, it was week 2. But
Mhm.
with the seeing of this, the Valiant just I do think that they underestimate the Gladiators. Of course, the Gladiators have a really good lineup themselves. Again, they haven't shown the best strategies or best attacking points or anything like that. Um, but all stated, the Valiant they didn't show up on the first 2 months. They just kind of slept on them, and then they decided, hey, guys, we should probably play like our normal selves and not play like the Shanghai Dragons right now.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
I
that's what it
think.
turned out to be.
And I think you're absolutely right. You know, they were coming off of a hard week the week before, and they thought maybe, I'm thinking, they could coast through this week with the matchups that they
Mhm.
had, and it didn't. It didn't turn out that way on day one. And if I was the Valiant coach after that match, I would have been like, "Hey, wake up! You guys got to be in it from the very beginning, or somebody's going to take advantage of you." And that's
Hmm.
exactly what happened to the Valiant. So great points all around by everyone. And then our final top story of the week is the fact that Dallas Fuel, disappointing again, losing one of their two matches, this time to the Boston Uprising. But we are seeing some really, really decent improvement coming out of Shanghai. Uh, because like they basically took the fusion to 5, which nobody expected. But I want to start with you, Blue, with regards to Dallas. I mean, this is an enigma wrapped in a puzzle, wrapped in a mystery with regards to why they can't get their sort of house in order. They should have beaten Boston supposedly, very soundly for a team that they are. They did sort of beat up on the Shock previously 3-0, but Boston coming over that good win over the Spitfire almost carried that momentum with that into the Dallas Fuel game, and Dallas didn't seem to be sort of ready for it in some occasions. So, what do you think is going on here?
I think they know their weaknesses, and the thing is that they don't know how to cover their weaknesses. In this league, and this has actually been explained by the Spitfire, that off-meta picks don't work anymore. Dive has pretty much dominated the entire league for the longest time, and Dallas's dive isn't it's not good. Currently, their tank composition between Mickey and Coco hasn't been the most fantastic. Mickey's been showing up a lot with his Roadhog, even though he prefers playing his Diva. With that stated, we've been seeing Junkrat being a main pick from Seagull as one of their main DPS players, and Effect has been stuck on his McCree slash Widowmaker. He hasn't been able to dash around with his Tracer. There's been mistakes made between the teams. They get encountered really hard by Pharah. Honestly, if you play Pharah against Dallas, you're almost guaranteed to win, and that's scary.
That is scary. And the thing about it is like as a Fuel fan myself, it is somewhat frustrating to watch them play because of these crazy off meta picks that aren't working. And you're right, the London team basically explained that this was just not one of those things that was just going to really work out for them. And it's coming to fruition. If you're a Dallas fan, a little bit of news: they announced the signing of AKM from Team Rogue previously, who was a free agent and will be joining them after stage 2. But I honestly believe that DPS isn't really their main issue. I think it's mostly tank. Like, you know, uh, Tack. I mean, you've made you've made fun of the Dallas Fuel for a while now, but like they really have issues up front because as we've seen, it looks like Coco is just sort of available with regards to not feeding other teams because he's dying really really quickly. And I mean, is this going to be a problem you think like going forward still? I mean, you're enjoying this, but I mean, what do you
Oh
think
yeah.
with
I
regards to
mean, honestly, at this point, I think someone should just take Dallas out back and put them out of their misery. But I think overall the problem is, as you said, they've had problems with shot calling. They've had problems with their tank lineup. I think um, when signing day comes, they need to really think about who they're keeping and who they're going to get rid of, because I think a lot of it is just the team isn't quite meshing, and so they're having confidence issues. They don't have trust in each other, and so I think they really need to work that out before anything else.
Well, I think you might be right about that, but I also think it's like you're looking at a team. I think that has won for so long and won $100,000 championship tournament before Overwatch League started, thinking that they could keep doing what they're doing, and they're having a hard time adjusting. Supposedly, with one of the better coaches in NA with Kai Kai. Uh, the other point here is that uh, Shanghai is also showing improvement. So that bottom tier right now is looking very, very scary for Dallas if they can't pick up wins. And you've got the Dragons also picking up 2 maps against Philly Artemis. And the only point
Mhm.
I wanted to make here with regards to Philly and Shanghai is Shanghai looked like they were fighting like basically like tooth and nail to get anything out of Philadelphia. That point in Junkertown where they forced it to 5 and Philadelphia literally needed to take it, I think, point 0.3 meters, and Shanghai just wouldn't give it up. Is this one of those cases in which Philadelphia just plays up to their competition? If their competition is really really good, they look fantastic, and if their competition is mediocre or bad, they sort of play down to their level.
Yeah, I think that Philly just is not good at dealing with these lower level teams. Like every time they have played these lower level teams, it has been really close for them. And when they play the Korean teams, it's been one way or the other. It's either been a win or a loss, and it hasn't been close up until recently. I think they've been getting a lot better, and um, I don't know. I also think Shanghai is getting a lot better. I think they might have underestimated Shanghai and their abilities.
Yeah, I think with the stories coming out last week, and you've seen some dramatic improvement this last week with regards to Shanghai, and I'm hoping that they can get a win before the end of stage one. Though, as we're going to go see, week four is not going to be very Shanghai friendly as we start to
Hmm.
get into the schedule. So, but let's now lead into the stats page here. So, Blue, please tell me the stats for going through week three. What are you seeing in the trends with the statistics among all of the teams here?
The biggest thing for me that I've noticed is right now, a team has finally dethroned Seoul from being on the top of the differential list, and that would be the Houston Outlaws.
Oh,
Houston has absolutely stomped on teams as of late. Obviously, they went against the Mayhem, which, I mean, nobody really cares about the Mayhem at this point. They know that the moment that Shanghai gets a win, Mayhem are at the bottom. But all considering, they also went 4-0 against the Gladiators, who gave the Valiant a tough time. With that stated, they were clean matches. They weren't even. There was almost no competition coming out of the opposing team when it came to Houston. I believe there was only 3 points taken during the Gladiator match, and then there was maybe, I think there was 1 point taken against the Mayhem, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you might be right. Yep. It was
So
no, I think they 4-0'd Florida, did they? Or did they 3-1 them? I can't.
no, they 4-1 them, but
Yeah.
I mean 4-0'd them. But I'm saying not maps, but
yeah,
as in map
points.
Oh,
points.
points. Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah.
so there's only been 4
Yeah,
objectives
4 points.
capped against Houston the entire week.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
this is pretty shocking to look at. And like the thing about it is like I did my power rankings earlier this week, and I ranked Houston at number 5 or 6. But looking at this, they've just been really dominant. I mean, Tack, you saw Blue statistics, and you saw Houston play this week. Are they this good, or is it their opponents that are this bad?
Yeah, what this doesn't reflect is definitely strength of schedule. I think that's something that's missing with a lot of statistical analysis is that it doesn't also include how good the teams that the team you're comparing is playing. And if you look back over this last week, Houston played. I mean, they did play Gladiators, which is a mid-tier team, but they also played Mayhem this week, which is a really terrible team. And so with these statistics, you don't also get the reflection of how good the team that these stats were put up against was.
Yeah.
I want to make a counterpoint. Now, if we actually go back to the matches that we're considering,
Yeah.
obviously the Gladiators getting 4-0'd, but they only took 1 map point versus Mayhem actually taking 3 points.
No,
Oh,
Gladiators
I
took
got that
3.
backwards. No, I
Yeah.
said that already. So yeah, I agree with you then.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm going through the previous weeks, and really the only bad week that Houston had was week one, where I think they got surprised by Philadelphia, honestly, because nobody ever saw Philadelphia scrim the entire offseason. They were all busy trying to get visas for everyone. And no, they were an unknown quantity and surprised them. And then Houston ran into a dominant NYXL. But going through the scores, they haven't lost a game to anyone since then. They 4-0'd Shanghai, they 4-0'd Dallas, they 4-0'd the
Yeah,
Gladiators,
yeah,
and they 4-0'd
4
yeah.
too.
Yeah, I mean, like it's funny, like Archimus, like if you watch some of the interviews with some of the Seoul Dynasty people, you saw that they were saying that the team to be careful on was the Houston Outlaws, and people were saying it's like, oh, it's like sort of next level, sort of
Hmm.
get in their heads because Seoul has to end up playing them, I think, next week, and people were sort of joking about that, but by basing the statistics here, you have, you know, them going 4-0, 4 straight games in a row, getting, and then the first week was sort of just that trial week that everybody didn't know what was really going on. I mean, if I'm Seoul Dynasty coming up, am I worried about Houston? You think?
I think Houston is a bigger threat than people think like they've been doing really well, and I think they definitely have improved. They've gotten everything together, unlike a lot of teams in this division, aka Dallas. They've actually gotten their stuff together. They know what they're doing, and they are easily beating these other teams. I think they definitely have the synergy and the communication on their team to do really well in this league.
I think you might be right. And the thing about it is with the weird losses that happened last week and with these matches coming up, I mean, Houston has a real shot. And I think, I don't know if everybody understands that there is a special mini tournament that happens at the end of every stage where I think the top three teams by schedule, not schedule, by yeah, I think it's by wins and losses gets put into like a mini tournament for $100,000, where I mean, it's big money, especially for
Mhm.
these guys. And like in old school Overwatch, you're looking at $100,000 being a major for a tournament. That is only for just stage one. I mean, they get to do it like three times more. So it is absolutely crazy important to be dominating in these stages so that you have a chance at that money at the end. And I honestly think with the way that the schedule is working, I think Houston has a real shot at it. I think it'll be really crazy. Like you see a Houston team instead of London or a New York in the final weeks, in the final week five final tournament. I think it would be very, very exciting to fans. Blue, any last
Mhm.
thoughts on the statistics here?
Um, the other thought that I had in mind is that I actually him again. I know we harp a lot about how terrible Shanghai has been and how we are all rooting for the Dragons to like get better and everything. You look at the Mayhem and we spoke about how the Mayhem had a must win against the Dragons the previous week. Um, the only issue is that the Dragons are actually very close to being better than them. Um, and that I say that of course subjectively. Due to the fact that the round differentials show that the Dragons are only 3 maps behind the Mayhem, and I honestly think that if the Dragons can get a win over somebody, if anybody, unfortunately it might be against Dallas. That's gonna hurt a little bit. But they have the Dragons have been getting themselves together. Now what Ark said earlier it brought a very key point in my head in regards to this. The teams that have been dominating as of late are the teams that are putting themselves together. The teams that are scrambling to put themselves back together are the ones that are falling behind. The Dragons started off miserably. The Mayhem have a poor roster. The Fuel have been dealing with bad publicity. The Shock have been dealing with I don't know what the Shock have been dealing with. The Shock's just been bad. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
but then we look at the top teams right now, like for example, Houston. Houston has put together something that I think is actually special for a team. Jake and Linksters have such good communications. Muma has been amazing on his tank play. The coordination of their team and their dive has been amazing. Linkster is surprising a lot of people, and everybody knows Jake Rat. He's yeah.
Carried so hard.
Yeah, he did. You can't
Um, but
deny
we
it.
also but we also look at Dynasty, who's so well put together that finally took a loss from another well put together team. We see Excelsior taking a win over the Dynasty, who only unfortunately lost to the Philadelphia team that has been showing that they aren't ones to be messed with. We see the London team that started off fantastically because they had such good synergy in the very beginning, but it's slowly been falling apart due to communication, people figuring them out, people actually working around their actual their comp. So London has to just rethink things. We look at both sides of the spectrum, and it's the teams that are put together that are winning, and it's the teams that are falling apart that don't know what they're doing with themselves yet. They're not committed to anything yet.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, like you're starting to see it though, because like 4 weeks in now, I mean, you're starting to see who's put together and who isn't. And as we flash to the standings here, you'll see that the current standings reflect the teams that are put together versus the teams that are not. And we have, based on, I think the tiebreaker here is I think still map wins, which you still have the Korean hegemony at the top, 1, 2, 3, with Seoul, New York, and London at 5 and 1. but just hot on their tails here is the Houston Outlaws and the Los Angeles Valiant and the Philadelphia Fusion at 4-2.
Mhm.
So, like, you can't count any of those teams in that 4-5-6 role out in any way. And with Boston doing as well as they did in week 3 at 3-3, the only team being at 3-3, and then the rest, I think, is that sort of lower tier secondary group of teams that will not have a shot this stage. I
Mhm.
think out of the top 7, you're able to sort of pull out any of those teams in order to say, hey, look, we can beat anybody above us, and we definitely can beat anybody below us. And it's just a sort of a nice thing to see, where you don't have one team just absolutely stomping everyone, and statistically, a team like Houston, who might not be at the top, is just dominating the stats and saying, look at us, we're here, and we'll be able to prove ourselves. And that takes me week 4 of the Overwatch League, and whoops, and I just wanted to make sure that there we go, that we see uh, Houston. As we'll go through the days here real quick, just so that everybody can see, but um, just a bit overview with regards to all of the days. Houston, a big game on Friday against the Seoul Dynasty, as well as a sort of a warm up here on day 1 against the San Francisco Shock. But I mean, this is mid-table madness, as I call it, on day 1. Uh, what are you going to be watching here on day 1? Because it looks like the rest of the week is backloaded with better games towards like day 2, 3s, and 4. But Artemis, tell me, like on day 1, are you going to be paying attention? I know you're going to be paying attention to the Valiant Philadelphia because that will be a big
Yeah,
matchup. But
of course.
yeah, but do you think that there can be a bit of a letdown here for Houston? I think in the 11 p.m. match against San
Yeah,
Francisco, maybe looking forward too much.
I think they're just gonna 4-0 them again. They've been doing really well against these lower level teams. I think the Gladiators are also gonna 4-0 the Mayhem, or
Hmm.
at least 3-1 them, because I feel like Mayhem and Shock are just really not doing what they need to do to be good teams right now, especially against Houston and the Gladiators.
Yeah,
We're picking it up.
yeah, I think you're right here. Tack, tell me, what are you watching on day 1 here?
I'm just going to be watching the let's see, the Valiant Fusion game. That's it. Not really interested in the rest of those, mostly because it's just going to be gladiators and outlaws. Just kind of blowing the fuck out of Mayhem and Shock, and just nothing really interesting day 1.
Like Blue, we were talking about how week 3 we thought was going to be a boring week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't think that there were possibly any upsets. Are you thinking the same thing for maybe for day 1? Is this going to be a boring day except for game 1, or is this going to, or do we see some potential, say maybe some uprising here with regards to Florida and San Francisco, maybe surprising some people?
Um, the way I look at it is that this week specifically is going to be a proving grounds week for not only the Valiant, who have shown that they can falter pretty easily, but also the Fusion. So, they have a lot cut out for them. I don't think that the Gladiators are gonna just completely cream the Mayhem. I do see that the Mayhem have a shot of actually trying to do something. I'm not gonna say that they're guaranteed to get any maps or anything. I'm
Mhm.
just saying that I want to see the Mayhem actually show up here, and if they run out of stamina again, then it's GG easy for them. Um, as for the Houston, eh, poor Shock.
Yeah.
It's like I think I might be just the only one. I think Houston is really going to have to be out to prove themselves on Friday, and I just can't get rid of this fact that they've been doing so well, and they've been 4-0ing all of these teams in the last 2 weeks, that they might just forget about Dante and the rest of San Francisco Shock and just sort of look past them to Friday. I don't know. It's just this nagging feeling in my heart that maybe San Francisco could make them feel a little nervous, but my head is saying 4-0. So what are you gonna do? So so
Yeah.
let's go with picks here. Artemis, let's start with you since you started the conversation. Let's go game by game. Who are you thinking for Philadelphia Valiant on winning that
Oh
game?
God. I really want Philly to win. I really think they can do it. but I think it's definitely going to be a close game. I think Philly's going to win 3-2.
Blue, what do you think? Philly versus the Valiant. What's your score?
I'm actually going to see. The thing is Philadelphia is the only 4-2 team with a negative map score. I think that they are fantastic underdogs in this current setup here. And again, the Valiant have been showing signs of weakness. I think the Fusion can actually win this one 3-1.
Wow. Okay.
Damn.
3-1. More optimistic than Archimist.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. So Blue, for Tack, excuse me, this is going to be the only match you're going to watch. So please.
Yeah. I think Valiant will tie 1. Actually, you know what? I'll give him 1 tie, so I go 3-0 Fusion.
3-0 Fusion, really?
Mhm.
Wow. Oh, okay.
If Fusion can beat NYXL, they can easily beat Valiant.
The way I'm looking at it is if Soon doesn't show up to play, or if he gets shut down, it's a game over. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I think you're right. I think he makes so much space for them playing that Tracer, and even to the point playing that Widowmaker when he switches to it on Ilios when they play it. Like if
Oh,
he has an or versus Carpe, I mean it'll
Oh.
just go back and forth. This is a great DPS matchup for both.
Mhm.
And after Philadelphia's performance last week, I discount the Shanghai match. I don't think that was. I think they were coming off of a high and overlooked Shanghai. They'll be ready for this match. I think 3-2 Fusion. I think people from LA will be very mad at me for saying that, but that's what I'm calling. But
I mean,
for
I like the way that the tanks look. The tanks. I think this matchup actually comes down to the tanks. The DPS
Oh.
matchup is going to be insane, but it's going to be up to the tanks to make enough space for them to be effective. When it comes down to that,
Yeah.
I say that the Fusion actually are a bit more dominant than the Valiant are in that aspect.
yeah, you know what? And I believe in that. But the thing about it is you have this sort of niche of LA Valiant supporters who think that they are going to be the ones that are going to be challenging the Koreans in the end. Give it stage 2, stage 3 in the long run. But I don't know. I saw Philly perform on last week, and I believe in Philadelphia now. You can't help me from doing it. So I'm with them. So
Alright.
Korean killers versus the fallen Korean killers.
Philly boys number 1.
exactly. So are we in agreement here that the next 2 matches? I think everybody agrees. Like Florida, LA, Blue. Are you thinking 3-1 or 4-0?
I want to say 3-1. It's going to be a 4-0. Surefour's going to walk all over them.
Yeah.
So Tack, you're not going to watch this game, but what do you think? Gladiators mayhem.
I think it's just going to be an absolute spanking. I think I'm calling 4-0 Gladiators.
Archimus, you too?
I'm going to give them 1 map. I'm going to say 3-1.
All right. So, and then the final match of day 1 is the Houston Outlaws versus San Francisco. Tack, any chance for San Francisco at all?
No, this is another bitch. This is another bitch smacking. I think the Outlaws 4-0.
Archimus?
Yeah, 4-0.
Blue? Consensus?
Overwatch?
Overwatch it is, and I'm in agreement with both of you. I honestly think it might be 3-1 with the Gladiators, maybe 3-2. I give Florida a shot of maybe sneaking a second map in there against the Gladiators, but they don't win the overall series. And I think Houston, deep down, I think they lose a map to San Francisco. I think it'll be 3-1 Houston, and I think it'll scare the bejesus out of them to actually play right for the rest of the series and stomp them into the ground so that they'll be ready for Seoul on Friday. So on to day 2 we go. And I think we're starting to get into the meat of the schedule here because I think all 3 maps, all 3 games have potential here. We'll start with Philadelphia and Dallas, which is a matchup in the sense that I know Archimus just groaned when he saw this one because the Dallas Fuel, who have the largest following in all of Overwatch League, versus the upstart Philadelphia team that, coming off the Valiant game, is going to be stressed out going into this game because they know who they're playing. What do you see here happening? Because Dallas is on this swing where they're just I don't know what team is going to show up. Is it going to be the 3-0 team that shows up, or is it going to be the 2-3 team that lost to Boston. Artemis.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna say Philly's definitely gonna win this one. I'm not giving Dallas a chance. I think it's gonna be 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, like Blue, you're the Dallas Fuel fan. I mean, is this their chance at redemption this week with regards to maybe propping up their schedule a little bit, or is just Philly too much for them right now in their current state?
Last week was Dallas's proving week. They proved that they can get a single win at least. Going with the idea that they're going to play against the Fusion, who also have to prove themselves. The Fusion went 2-1 against the Shock. I'm gonna go ahead and give this one to Dallas.
Really? All right.
So,
And Tack, what do you believe in Dallas in this match, or are you're a perpetual Dallas hater saying no chance?
I'm gonna say Dallas didn't prove shit last week. After they got put down by Uprising. So
the team
I'm going to
that
give this
beat
one
the
to the
London
Philly.
Spitfire.
Let me make my prediction here. I'm going to give this one to the Fusion. Let's see. How bad do I make it, really, honestly? I'll give it 3-0. I'll give them a tie.
All right. 3-0. Well, I think Dallas has a tough break here. I honestly believe going into this match, they're basically on a confidence low after losing to Boston the way they did. Philadelphia, I preface this, if Philadelphia win against the Valiant, they're going to come through and beat Dallas no problem. That is my prediction. But if they lose to the Valiant, I think they'll have issues with Dallas. And that's where I'm going to end it, because I'm not going to predict that match. I'm not going to make anybody angry. So the next one is New York Excelsior versus a vastly improved Shanghai Dragons. Now, Tack.
4-0 Dragons.
4 Dragons.
Tack, please tell me that Excelsior is not going to drop a map to the Shanghai Dragons.
No. Come on, Hodo. Be real with me here.
You saw them play Philadelphia. They played them tight, and they almost beat them, and they beat you. So, come on.
Yeah. But this is Shanghai we're talking about. This is Shanghai. All right. So it's definitely 4-0. Not even a question.
Now, Artemis, you saw Shanghai play your team. They played well. They took you to 5.
Yeah.
Are they taking a map off the Excelsior?
I think they surprised Philly with how much they have improved. And I think that they're going to take at least one map. I think it's probably going to be 3-1.
So, Blue, how about you? Do you believe in the Shanghai Dragons?
I was one of the people that was in Twitch chat screaming to take our energy.
Take our energy.
I was one of those people. I believe in the Dragons. I've been saying that I believe in the Dragons for the past past 2 weeks now. Obviously they took a map off Seoul, who proved to be fallible against the Excelsior. But they took Philly, who is also taking out the Excelsior, to 5 maps. Again, we've covered that it may have been just a surprise, but I believe that the Dragons can win this one out. I'm not giving it to them, though. So I'm going to give it 3-1 Excelsior.
3-1 Excelsior. I honestly believe that I think between the two matches that sort of sandwich this one are very, very high stakes and also going to be packed with viewers. But I think people who are going to be tuning in for the London Seoul match and people who are tuning out of the Fuel Fusion match will be spamming Take My Energy Shanghai and will be trying to will them to win at least one map. I honestly don't think that they'll do it. I think it'll be a 4-0 Excelsior, but I guarantee one of the maps are going to be a lot closer than you think it is. And I think if the crowd can get behind them, it can sort of rattle Excelsior, because I think it was Taimu or Mickey or somebody that said that the crowd can get loud enough so that you can hear them through the headphones.
Oh, yeah, that was Taimu.
It was Taimu, yeah. And the thing about it is if you're cheering, if Shanghai can just sort of feed off that energy a little bit and maybe rattle the Excelsior, they can take a map. And that's really what I'm hoping, because I really do want them to come with a win. But overall, though, this week it sucks for them. They have to play London on Saturday. It's like you go from one dragon, you go from one Korea team to another, and it's just awful. That's a hell of a draw to have on week 4 for Shanghai. But
Gotta cheer for your
Yeah.
meme team.
no,
Gotta
I know.
cheer for your meme.
Gotta cheer for the meme. But let's talk about the final game here. So it is London Spitfire versus the Seoul Dynasty. It honestly is the marquee matchup of this week. So we're going to call this our match of the week. Essentially, you're looking at two teams who have played each other in finals before. You're looking at Kongdu Pantera, members of London Spitfire, who played Lunatic High in the Apex Season 3 final in one of the most epic 7-game series that was ever played in Overwatch. It just was sort of back and forth. This one is almost, I think, going to be too hard to call. I think I go into statistics here, Blue, and I think that Seoul has the advantage. But do you think that London, with Seoul losing last week, can sort of take advantage of the fact that Seoul lost and maybe overcome them in this match?
I say the Dynasty are gonna lick their wounds a little bit here. They're gonna look for a confidence boost in this matchup, and they're going to try and do whatever they can. They lost the map to the Dragons, which I'm sure everybody knows about, and they lost an entire match to another Korean team. They're not gonna underestimate another Korean team again. With that stated, though, London has been losing. They have been showing weaknesses. They were the first Korean team to actually almost falter to the Valiant. Um, I want the dynasty to actually show up there, but I don't think the Spitfire are going to back down from them. And I actually think that London is going to have some type of resurgence here because they've had to do a little bit of soul searching to make sure that they can come up to this match, and this is the one that they're looking forward to. And I say the Spitfire are going to take this one only to history showed itself.
Really, really, really. Tack, are you in agreement with that? Do you think London wins over the Seoul Dynasty?
No. I think it's gonna go 3-2, but I think it's gonna go to Seoul after a lot of back and forth fights. I think as if you look at the map breakdown here, we're looking at Anubis as our 2CP.
Oof.
And so, yeah, as I say, I think that's going to go. We're going to see a long, drawn out Anubis game, much like we did with Seoul and Dallas. So I expect a very long and a hard fought game, but it's eventually going to go to the Dynasty.
So split votes here, Archimus, between Seoul and London. Well, you're the tiebreaker. Who is it going to be?
Okay. I think I think that Spitfire is lacking, and I don't think they are as good as Seoul. I think Seoul is going to definitely pick up the pieces, and I think they're going to do really well. As for Spitfire, they just lost to Boston, and that is just depressing to Boston of all teams. So I think it is definitely going to be a close match because Spitfire is definitely going to want to win this to prove that they are not a bad Korean team like they seem to have been before. I just don't think that they're going to get it. I think that Seoul is going to come out on top this time. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be at least 3-2, maybe a tie. I'm not sure. It's probably going to be 3-2 with Seoul on top. That's what I'm calling.
Yeah, this one is too hard for me to call. I don't know who's going to win this. Previously we saw that London's defense was so good, and I think that the supports on the Dynasty compared, like you saw, like I think it's Bedosin on the London Spitfire who was
Hmm.
ranked, I think, as the number one Zen over Jonak and even some of the other ones because of his kill rate. I think they're exposed a little because if Seoul can dive in and kill Bedosin, I think it would. London was completely exposed in their match when they had when in the previous week when they lost to Boston. Boston were just diving on their Zen the entire time, and he contributes so much to their sort of offense that they just couldn't pull it out against the Uprising. And I think Seoul saw that, and I think Seoul will exploit that, and it'll be one of those things in which whether or not London can adjust to having Munchkin or Bunny or even like Fleta just sort of focusing on Bedozin in the back line the entire time, and it's going to be very very interesting because I know that
Mhm.
Toby and Jae Hong will survive anything that London throws at them. So like those two guys will probably be the key for Seoul winning, I think, and but I don't know. I think it could go either way. So that takes care of both day one and day two. And now day three is an interesting one because I really just want to focus on two matches because I think that bottom of the table San Francisco Shock Florida Mayhem lead in to the match that is second is sort of underwhelming, and it's like, oh god, really? All we get is pretty much a Florida walk-in video and then a game that is probably not going to be consequential by anybody that is going to be watching. But Seoul Houston at 9 o'clock on day three is going to be a huge match, if only for the fact that Houston finally gets to show whether or not they're for real. And
Mhm.
Artemis, I want to start with you with regards to this match. Does Houston prove to the Overwatch community that they are actually the best team in the Overwatch League by beating Seoul Dynasty?
Uh, I want to believe that they can do it. I really do. They've just been 4-0ing people since week 2. They got their shit together, and I think they can still do it, but I think it's going to be a close game. Uh, I think, I don't know, Seoul might underestimate them. They might not. I think Seoul might just be better.
Blue, do you think that there's a bit of a hangover that comes in from the day before playing London? Probably going to be a 5 game sort of epic matchup on day two. Do you think that they go into the Houston match in day three a little bit lagged out, maybe a little too exhausted doing the back to back, giving Houston a shot? Oh, I think have we lost Blue here? Uh,
Oh no, I didn't hear you call me.
oh, I'm sorry.
My
Yeah,
fault.
so Blue, I'm just it's all right. I just want to know, do you think that Houston has a reasonable shot here on day 3 versus the Seoul Dynasty regarding this match because Seoul will be coming off that London match. That'll be really really tough for them. So do you think maybe there's a bit of a hangover and maybe Houston can take advantage of it?
Um, I think that Houston's getting a free VOD review from that matchup. And to top it off, I think that the way that the match is going to be decided is between the 3 best snipers in the game right now, between Linksers, Fleta, and Yu Jaehong, because I have to count him as the sniper. Um, I think that the first one to actually die in this is going to end up losing it for their team. It's really going to be a Widowmaker matchup in my eyes. It doesn't really matter what else happens on the floor because after that, after one of them gets taken out and then they get rezzed and taken out again, um, the rest of the opposing team is going to essentially get pushed off by the Widowmaker.
Hmm. That's an interesting sort of look at that match because yeah, I mean like Linkser has been amazing, Fleta has been amazing, but he was really ordinary in the match that they lost to NYXL. So maybe looking for a bit of redemption there, uh, maybe in the next match too against London. But it'll be interesting. So Tack, give me your take on this match. What do you think?
Um, I really think this is going to be a hard fought match. I think Outlaws is a very good team, and I think they do have the capacity to really put a dent in Soul Dynasty. Do I think they're able to beat Soul Dynasty? That is really going to be a question of whether Soul actually shows up to play. As the saying goes, any given Sunday. So I think Houston really does have the capacity to win this match. It'll just be a matter of which team shows up to play.
You know, the, there's an old saying where like sometimes a team is just too confident for its own good. They don't know they're going into a match that's really important. I honestly believe that Houston it has this sort of swagger and arrogance to them, thinking that they can beat anyone and it doesn't matter who it is going into this match. That I think that they can ride into victory. They'll need it going against the Seoul Dynasty. And I am giving Houston a legitimate shot to take this match. Only for the sheer fact that Seoul will be coming off of a London match that'll be really, really hard for them and really, really mentally stressful, and they've got to turn it around and then play Houston the very next day. I'm thinking it'll be 3-2, but I don't know who it'll be. But if
Oh,
Houston wins, I think it's a perfect sort of setup for them to win this match over the Seoul Dynasty. So,
um, bonus information. They're playing on Horizon Lunar Colony. We're gonna see Jake Rat. He's gonna stomp on the
Oh
fuel in
god.
game 2. That's all I wanted to say.
no, that's actually a good point. As you look into the maps, it starts with Eichenwald, it's Horizon, Ilios, and then Junkertown at the end.
Hmm.
That no Anubis there for the snipers to sort of go crazy on. Though you can actually play sniper on part A on Horizon. But yeah, you're going to see a lot of Jake Rat. I think in like 3 of the 4 matches. I think. Hell, you could play it on Ilios too if you want. So. Um, it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. And I think he's going to be a nuisance, especially into the back line, because Seoul, if Yu Jae Hong and Toby are dead all the time to random sort of spam and mines and stuff, that's going to be very, very hard for them to deal with.
My life as a tracer.
Yeah, so they'll have Bunny and Munchkin basically going up against that. So that might be problematic too. If that Tracer does it, it gets killed way too early trying to sort of penetrate the back lines, and Jake plays a little passive and is there just to basically kill the Tracer and just sort of flip the fight 6v5, then the snipers might not have to come into play if that happens. So going to be an interesting matchup. I think it's going to be a very good one to watch too. So we go to the last matchup, which is the LA Gladiators and the Boston Uprising. And the only reason I want to highlight this match is because Boston is probably coming off their best week as a team in the Overwatch League. And this is going to be the first match that they're going to have after coming off of wins off of Dallas and as well as coming off a win off of London. So I want to put it to you, Blue, does Boston fall into the same sort of pit that they were in day one, losing to bad teams, or do they continue and basically just outright stomp the Gladiators here in this matchup?
I say the Uprising has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Dreamcast has been absolutely amazing as of late, and um, it's been extremely entertaining to actually watch from them. As for the Gladiators, though, I say this is more of a situation to where they need to come back and humble themselves. I know that they've been losing quite often, and that's not a good sign. But they had a tough matchup against Valiant. They shown that they can actually they had the chance to win in that matchup. I say that the Gladiators have a shot to scare Boston, but I do see Boston mostly dominating the actual matchup. So I give it a 3-1, but I think the Gladiators actually take the early map.
Tack, what are you seeing between LA and Boston here?
I gotta agree with Blue on this one.
How about Artemis? How about you? You thinking Boston has a
You
shot
know,
here against the Gladiators?
I feel like Boston has done really well against these teams that have had supposedly been better teams, but I don't know. I think it might be a closer game than people are thinking. I feel like Boston knows what to do against the better teams. I'm not so sure if they know what to do against the worst teams, the teams that aren't the Korean teams. I mean, they did beat Dallas, but Dallas has not been doing very well lately. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I think they can pull it out.
Yeah, I think this is one of those matches in which the Gladiators are are going to basically surprise everyone because for some reason this team is one of those teams that they do really, really horrible at times, and then they'll just come out of nowhere and surprise you. I think this is one of those matches. I think Boston, coming off of a high, are going to be coming into this match thinking that they are going to be able to stomp the Gladiators, and I think the Gladiators, and I don't ever underestimate Sure 4, and and his team. I honestly think this is a lot closer than a lot of people think, and I think the Gladiators win
Mhm.
this 3-2 in a surprise after last week, but it's going to be close and a lot closer than a lot of people think. But I think this is going to be one of those sleeper matches on day 3 that people are just going to sort of be like, oh, this ends up being a good match, as opposed to like some looking at it and it's like it's two teams I don't really necessarily care about. So I think
Shock mayhem.
shock mayhem. I mean, we didn't talk about it, but honestly, it's like you're looking at two teams between the Florida Mayhem and San Francisco Shock who are very sort of underperforming. And a lot of times you look at a match like that and you see two teams underperforming and you get a decent match. But I can't remember which map it was. I think, no, it was the Florida Shanghai match where I think everybody commented about how slow that match
Yeah,
was.
very slow.
It was like watching snails race. And Overwatch is normally a very, very fast-paced game, but I didn't understand like how both teams could be just sort of like crawling to where they were wanting to go. I have a nasty feeling this match is going to be the same way between the Shock and the Mayhem, which is why I just think that it's like sort of inconsequential on day 3, and it's like going to be one of those things that I think people are just going to skip until they get to the 9 o'clock hour where they're going to watch Seoul and Houston. Also, just as a heads up, Seoul Houston will be played at, I think the time difference is it's going to be 11 a.m. Saturday, but also going to be during it'll be the last Friday before the Olympics. So maybe it could be that
Ooh.
the Seoul team will get its highest viewership there before everybody starts watching South Korea and North Korea compete together in the
Mhm.
Pyeongchang Olympics of 2018, because those start on February 9th, excuse me. So that's the interesting viewership note for everyone. If you see the viewership dip a little bit, that would be the week on during week 5. And then we get to the final day, and poor Shanghai has to play London in the early game. I mean, honestly, like
Two Korean teams.
two
Oh,
Korean teams in a week. I mean, poor guys.
Shanghai's getting a spanking this week.
Oh, I
getting
know.
bullied.
They're getting bullied. And the thing about it is like the worst mentally for a team is that if you show improvement and then the very next week you just get mauled. And unfortunately, they're going into a scheduling lineup switch in which they're playing New York and London in the same week. I mean, you just took 2 maps of Philadelphia. You're at a confidence high, and it's just going to get beat down again, unfortunately, against these teams. Maybe they take a map off of London. You think? I mean, anyone thinking that maybe they surprise London with a map or two?
Yeah, I
Say
think
they
so.
surprise London by 4-0ing them. It's easy.
I
Shanghai
can get
has
down
my
with that.
energy. I'll give them my energy, and they will
I'll
win.
give them my
4-0.
energy for that one.
They
I
can
think
have all my
everybody will
energy.
be giving Shanghai its energy there for that London game, but
It's
I
their
don't know.
best chance, I think.
Yeah, I think this will be it. I think they have a better chance against London than they do against Excel, because London will be playing an off sort of matchup here, probably thinking the same thing that Seoul did, where they could have backups basically play and win this match, and I think maybe Shanghai is able to surprise them. But the highlight match of Saturday is the Dallas Fuel versus the New York Excelsior. Now, Tack, I know you've been looking forward to this match to shut a
Oh,
person up.
oh, you have no idea, Hodo.
So tell me, how is the New York Excelsior going to dominate the Dallas Fuel in this particular matchup?
3 words for you, my friend. Big Boss Pine. All right. We're going to see Pine come out and absolutely destroy the Dallas lineup. But in all seriousness, I really think this is going to be a close game, as Dallas has shown against Seoul, especially, that they definitely do have a chip on their shoulder when it comes to Korean teams. So I think this will be a very close match, but of course I do think NYXL will pull it out in the end. So I'm predicting a 3-2 for the Excelsior.
Blue, being the resident Fuel fan, do you think that they have a shot here against the Excelsior?
Does Libero play Farah?
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dallas loses then.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Libero is a jack of all trades. I mean, like, I think it's been
I
commented.
see him playing. He plays more soldier right now, doesn't he?
Well, he does play more soldier, but I think he can play. They said that that his versatility goes through the entire offensive lineup as well as some tanks and defensive heroes. I think in one series one time that he played 9 different characters. So it's like, I mean, like, that's the thing with New York. Libero will be on the field at least for 3 of the maps because I think they switch him and Pine out for Ilios. And looking at the map lineup for this match, you're looking at uh it looks like Numbani, Anubis, Oasis, and Dorado, which
Okay, so
I
I
don't.
I, I I see that. I see this entire lineup. And let me give you a very quick rundown of exactly how this is gonna go. Dallas is gonna get 2 points on Numbani, and then they're gonna end up falling to Excelsior, and then the Fuel are gonna come back on Anubis, and then hype everybody up, and then on Oasis the Excelsior chooses not to sub in Pine, and they keep in Libero, and then Dallas ends up losing that map, and then they try and go into Dorado, and Libero stays in, plays Farah, and then wipes them out. It's 3-1.
That's a
I've already
very
predicted this.
Yeah,
concise. It's a concise matchup. Do you agree, Artemis?
yeah. I think that's a pretty good summary of what was probably happened.
Yeah, I mean, like Dallas is notoriously terrible on King of the Hill. I don't see them winning Oasis at all. There's just no way they can win. Even if it was on Ilios, there was no way they were going to win that. Their wins have to come on Anubis and early on I think on Numbani. But yeah, you're right. I think they have issues right now with all of these maps really don't help Dallas in any way. And I think you'll see Tack dancing on Saturday with his victory over Dallas and just sort of going on his merry way, unfortunately. And honestly, the last match is between the Boston Uprising and the Valiant. And this
Mm.
match is sort of one of those ones where the Valiant want to show in all of their games, because they're in this stretch of playing nothing but mid-table teams and non-Koreans, that they want to show that they're going to be the dominant team here by they could literally, by beating both Philly and Boston, say we are the true like North American contenders versus the other two. Artemis, do you think that the Los Angeles Valiant here basically take it to Boston and say, no, 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 what you did last week was a mistake. We are actually the true top NA team that's out here.
Yeah, I definitely think that this is probably going to be a close game, and depending on whether or not Boston wins to the Gladiators and how well Philly does to the Valiant could affect how this match goes. But I think I think Boston can win it. I think they can do it.
Blue, what do you think? Is this one of those things in which I think Valiant takes its place as the top North American team here by beating both the Fusion and the Valiant? Excuse me, and the Uprising this week?
Um, I say this matchup is dependent on the two matchups that both teams have. Um, if Philadelphia beats the Valiant, Valiant lose this match. If Boston loses to the Gladiators and Valiant win against the Fusion, then Valiant win this match. If it if they both win their previous matches, I say this matchup actually goes to the Boston Uprising for this one.
Tack, what do you think? Looking at this matchup between the two.
Well, it all really depends on whether Dreamcasper comes out locked and loaded. If Dreamcasper comes out and has a phenomenal first game, I think that's going to set up Boston for an easy 4-0 over Valiant.
DPS matchup, I think soon is going to need to have a big match too against Boston.
Mhm.
I'm thinking that this is going to be one of those times in which the back line is going to be harassed nonstop by
Most certainly.
by the tracer there, and it's going to be a really hard go for it. Hard go for them. I think for Boston to win, their tank line, I think Gamsu is their main tank right now, has to have a hell of a game up front, like, for the Boston Uprising. And the Valiant can't come off to a bad start like they did against the Gladiators. They can't go down 2-0 to the Boston Uprising. They're not going to win. They're not going to be able to reverse sweep them. So I think it is a 3-2 match, but I don't know who wins. And I'm not going to call it because I think it's a little too call with Boston on the form that they're in, and whether or not that they can beat both LA teams in a week. which will be
Mhm.
very, very interesting, to say the least. But
Boston, the LA Killers.
that would be it. That would be another notch on their mantle. Korean killer, LA killer would be an interesting sort of medal for them to sort of wear. But that takes us to the very end here. Uh, Final thoughts from you guys with regards to week 4. We'll start with Tack here. Like anything that you want to mention with regards to this sort of like upcoming week of Overwatch that you're excited to see.
I think NYXL has some easy peasy victories this week, so I will definitely have my popcorn for the some Korean on Korean action on Thursday. I mean, overall, this looks like a pretty good week of games, so I'm looking forward to it.
Lou, how about you? Like any final thoughts on what you think of 4?
After the very first match of the week, I'm going to fall asleep for the rest of the first day. From there on out, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat for the rest of the week, it seems like. And Mr. Pope of Excelsior here better be praying in his church, because I know I'll be praying in mine for the Fuel to win.
Saint Pine has yet to let me down.
Saint Pine didn't play a game
He
in
didn't
the
play.
like in the game
Exactly. He has 100% win rate.
Still,
Still. How about you, Archimus? Final thoughts on Philadelphia or maybe the rest of the week, the rest of week 4?
oh, it's gonna be a tough week for Philly, but there are gonna be some good games, and this week is looking like a much better week than what week 3 appeared to be. Even though week 3 did have some nice upsets, which changed how we looked entirely at week 4.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna be a good week.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an excellent week too. And it's going to be one of those things in which I think there are going to be some surprises here that we're not going to even know. And it'll be our headlines for our week 5 preview that'll be coming up. I think there are going to be 1 or 2 surprises that people are just not going to see coming, and it's going to shock everyone. And I think that
Dallas win.
Dallas win,
Dragons win.
Dragons win.
Talking about San Francisco here.
No, I don't know. I don't know if it's San Francisco, but I think it might be. Could it be Dallas, or could it be?
Oh, it
Could
could
it
be.
be something Shanghai does against one of its opponents? Who knows? But I think we're in for a. I think we're going in for a hell of a week on week 4, and that's going to do it for us here at Team Blackwatch. I'd just like to thank our guest panelists, Blue, Archimus, and Tactical Buffalo. You can join all of them on their Twitch channels here, which I'm posting. Please subscribe to their channels and subscribe to us here as we have this weekly content and this weekly roundup and preview of the upcoming week of the Overwatch League. This video will also be available on YouTube if you want to stream it on YouTube in the next, I think tomorrow, it'll be up tomorrow morning. And if you want to take us to work and you like the show, but it's a little too long for you to sit and sort of watch, you can download the show from Podbean. That is my podcasting site. You can go to hotohori.podbean.com and get an audio version of this and stream it on your iPhone. Just get the app and you can just stream it. Everybody has unlimited data nowadays, I think, at least I hope. And you can just listen to the podcast that way on your 1-hour commute to work. And you can get all of your Overwatch news and your preview for the upcoming Overwatch League from us here at Team Blackwatch. I have been your caster, Hotohori, thanking you very much for joining us today. For Blue, for Archimus, for Tactical Buffalo. Thank you very much for listening today, and I hope the upcoming week of Overwatch League has been as excellent as the previous week, and we will see you next time.